Well, if this is any indication of the sounds that we're going to be hearing from 2017, I'm all on board. So far, 2017 has been a fantastic year for music, and I hope this continues, and this album proves that it is. Aathma by Persefone, and I think that's how you pronounce the band's name. Persefone. Anyway, Persefone. If it's wrong, let me know by commenting below. So Persefone is a small progressive metal band from Andorra. And I actually had to look up where Andorra was, because it's a very small country way over in Europe, and it's being helmed by some very masterclass musicians. Originally, they started off doing more covers of like Opeth or Dark Tranquillity or In Flames or Arch Enemy, but slowly and surely they decided to find their own niche, their own sound, and really developed it from that. So knowing kind of their influences, we now kind of know what we're expecting. And what I like is, even though you can hear the influences of, say, In Flames or Arch Enemy, they are their own entity as well. And my favorite part about this band is their blending of the guitars and the keyboards in a fantastic dance, and being able to balance that chaos with an ability to create such a grand build to an amazing climax, and providing a fantastic playout from that. Now, this is the first and only album that I've heard from Persefone, so I can't really comment on if this is a new thing, or if this is an old thing, or if this is their style. But what I do love about Aathma is when they create these beautiful plateaus, they don't just kind of play it out and then be done with it, right? They really grow, and they really experiment, and they really develop the sound as they're in it. So let's talk a little bit about Aathma. And the overall concept is of our energy and our life force, and our souls essentially are one of many, but many of one. You know, and that's how the album opens up and closes. You know, we're all individuals, but individually we're all still one entity, right? It's very almost like the Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes in that kind of sense. So the album opens up, oddly enough, with two kind of opening tracks. The first one is that Infinitesimal Spark, and it's just a purely instrumental, very somber, very slow, and it's almost like sounds you would hear as the band is walking on stage. You know, it's even before the curtain rises. Then we have One of Many, and this really kind of shoots us right in the face of music. So on the one hand, how both of these songs do a great job of introducing us to the music that we will find on here. The Infinitesimal Spark has an idea of the softer pieces and more of the atmosphere that we have on here, whereas One of Many is much more of the chaotic approach that we'll have on the album, much more of a like in-your-face, bombastic oomph. And so the one saving grace that we have for the One of Many is that it bleeds perfectly into that third song of The Prison Skin. And Prison Skin, again, just starts off, and we got the growls, we have the chaos, and we have the brutality of the entire album. The one thing that I will kind of say as a positive is the band knows when to be brutal, especially with the growls and the chugging of the guitars and just all over the place. Like, it's all chaos. But then it also knows when to be more somber and more light and much more atmospheric, and that is also felt within the growls, because the lead vocals on here is very, very pristine, and he doesn't use the growls as a crutch. He uses the growls as a emphasizer of the sound that's going on here, and that is found whenever he's doing a clean vocals, because the clean vocals are so powerful as well. Break this wall and see the light, transcend your sense of. So the first half of the album never really caught my interest all that much. I've been listening to this album now for about 2 weeks, and the first half just don't really do a whole lot for me. The music itself is fantastic, and when you're in it, you're in for a great ride. And I think that's just the inherent nature of this type of chaotic metal. So you've got like the Prison Skin, you've got Spirals Within Thy Being, and you've got Cosmic Walkers, you've got No Face Mindless, and you've got The Living Waves. So all of these, they do a lot of great things, but at the end of the day, I don't really remember too much about it. The Cosmic Walkers I like because it's a little bit different than the rest. It's much more of a mellow, much more atmospheric. It never leaves me wanting more. It doesn't really I don't know, it doesn't feel all that whole to me. Now that can't be said for the second half, and that gets kicked off with Vacuum. Vacuum starts off the second half as being a very mellow, atmospheric, kind of that same essence that we had with the Infinitesimal Spark, as well as a little bit within the Cosmic Waters. But the thing that I like is how it blends perfectly into the stillness is timeless. And this piece is probably one of my favorite pieces on the album. It starts off very heavy and very brutal, and it just kind of hits you in the face. It wakes you up. It makes it apparent. And then about halfway through, it slows right down. Like, it almost stops entirely. And we have this slow build up this mountain. And when we get to that plateau, it is beautiful. And that's one of the highlights that I have on here, is that build to this beautiful plateau. And then once we get to the top, it's almost like we get pushed off the mountain and we're tumbling down. We're back into that just chaos. And so we have the chaos, the build, more chaos, and it's the very final piece where it's kind of a reflection of everything that has come before, where it's a blending of the chaos as well as the atmospheric calm and the build combined into one. That is where my heart really molds and just melts. And so from here, we come into the 4-piece track of the Aathma, part 1, 2, 3, and 4. And a lot of bands do this. They either end off a piece or they have this piece in the middle where it's one piece but separated into different songs. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Here, it works and it doesn't. Like, the first 2 pieces do a lot of that kind of wandering the landscape, not quite sure where to go. The entire time it's great. I love the interplay between the keyboards and the guitars. That is still held very, very nicely. But for me, it's the 3rd piece, that one with the light. And this kind of comes back to a lot of those concepts that we've had in the past. Very much like the stillness is timeless. We have the beginning part that's just chaos and it's all over the place. It's when it slows down into that gradual build and we have that chugging of the guitars, you've got the double kick going on with the drums, you've got that atmosphere swirling around your head. Everything is kind of burst right to this pinhead. And I can't help but just gush whenever this track takes place.
I feel I crossed the line. My heart vibrates with awe.
And then finally, it ends very much like it begins, kind of doing that full 180, starting off with the one of many, closing it off with the many of one. And the last track, it's a great kind of closer track. There's nothing too much to write home about. Overall, I still thoroughly enjoyed that, even with just the 9th track of Stillness is Silence and the 3rd part of that bigger track, the 12th track. Those 2 are enough to just write home and be like, you gotta pay attention to this because it is so passionate and so oomph. So overall, I have to say, if you can find it in physical form, definitely do so. This needs to be in your collection. If you're a fan of this type of metal, then definitely check these guys out. They are well worth your time. And so that's about it from me. What did you guys think? If you've heard this album, let me know of your own thoughts down below. This was actually recommended to me by one of my viewers, so thank you all for recommending that. Please keep those recommendations coming because I love hearing those. Just a reminder, I'm very close to getting my 1,000th subscriber, so if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Once I do hit 1,000, I'm putting out 2 videos for you guys. The first one is a surprise thank you video, so keep your eyes open for that one. I'm very excited to show you guys what I've been working on for the past, it's gonna be 3 months now, so get excited for that. The other one is I'm gonna go through and talk about my entire vinyl collection. So yeah, thank you already to all of my subscribers, and thank you for watching. You guys, as always, are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.